They said they didn't care when you stopped talking, but they haven't had a peaceful night since. That's not poetry, that's reality. And it cuts deep, because the ones who acted cold often can't survive the same temperature they gave you. They thought you'd always be warm, always be there, always be one call, one text, one fake apology away from crawling back. But now the warmth is gone. The doormat has been rolled up, the trash they threw you in. You crawled out of it, wiped yourself off, and turned into someone they can't even reach. They never thought you'd go cold, and now that you have, it's eating them alive. But they'll never admit it. Because silence doesn't scream. It whispers in their mind at 2 a.m. It speaks through your absence when they scroll, when they check, when they hope, and there's nothing. So if you've ever been used, ignored, tossed aside like garbage by someone who knew how much you cared, but still acted like your love was disposable, this one's for you. Because they said, "I'm fine," and you believed it. They acted cold, and you kept showing up. You gave warmth to someone who never intended to keep it, only consume it. But now, my friend, you flipped the switch, and you went cold. And that's what they can't handle. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who's rising from the fire. And if you feel this deep in your chest, comment below, "I went cold, they felt it." Make it known, to them, to yourself, to the world watching you rise from the ruins. Hey folks, imagine this. You were the fireplace in their freezing life. You burned day and night, giving them light, comfort, love, protection, and they never even said thank you. They stood there, hands out, taking your energy like it was unlimited. And then one day, when you were tired, when you needed just a little bit back, they walked out. Or worse, they mocked you for being too much, called you clingy, said they needed space, told you to relax. You weren't the problem. You were the only thing keeping them from falling apart. But they didn't see it until the fire died. Now they're cold. And it's not winter outside, it's winter inside. And no one's coming to warm them. My friends, not all pain is loud. Sometimes it's the quiet that shatters people. Sometimes it's the silence after a long, loyal love that haunts them more than your words ever could. They thought you'd beg. They thought you'd break. But you gave them nothing. And that nothing? It's everything now, because indifference is louder than heartbreak. You're not cruel, you're clear, you're not punishing them, you're preserving yourself. And that calm, that icy peace you're carrying now, it's killing them. Let this hit you straight. You were never the problem, you were the protection, you were never too much. They were just not enough. And when people can't rise to meet your love, they try to shame you for giving it. That stops today. No more explaining. No more chasing. No more being the emotional doormat for someone who wiped their muddy ego all over your soul. You're not cold because you're bitter. You're cold because you're done being burned. So write it below, write it in bold. I went cold, they felt it. Say it like a war cry, like a vow, like a silent storm, because what's coming next is not a breakdown, it's a becoming. Stay with me, because next, we're going deeper into what their silence is really hiding, and why your silence is starting to drive them insane. Number 1. They didn't notice the flame until it was out. They didn't notice the flame when it was warming them, but now that it's gone, they're shivering in the dark, choking on the cold air they begged for. You were the heat in that freezing room, day after day, silent, steady, burning from your own soul just to keep someone else from freezing. And the worst part? They never even said thank you. They didn't look at your love as a gift, they saw it as a given. like it was your job to care, like it was your duty to show up, no matter how cold they were, no matter how cruel, no matter how they treated you like trash, like a disposable lighter, only useful when they needed warmth. You still burned for them. And now, you're gone. The flame's out, and they don't know how to survive in the cold they created. Your warmth made them lazy, comfortable, arrogant. They thought you'd never leave. They thought they could throw shade, give silence, withhold effort, and you'd still stay burning. But guess what? Even the sun sets. Even the firewood turns to ash. And even the most loving soul will turn cold when it's burned too many times by the very hands it tried to warm. My friends, how many times did you shrink your own needs just to keep them comfortable? How many nights did you give your full heart, only to be met with empty silence? How many times did you offer your light just to be treated like a flickering match, disposable and replaceable? You weren't love to them. You were a service, an emotional doormat, and they wiped their filth all over you while asking why you weren't glowing anymore. And now, as you've gone quiet, as you've stopped checking, stopped reaching, stopped giving, they're beginning to panic. Because that flame wasn't just a warmth, it was an identity. They needed you more than they ever let on. And now that the heat is gone, they're realizing just how cold this world really is without someone like you. But they'll never say it. No, their pride won't let them admit it. So they suffer in silence. Quiet frostbite behind fake smiles. Loneliness wrapped in filtered photos. They scroll through old conversations, through old pictures, just to feel a spark of that warmth again. But it's not there. Because you're not there. And here's the worst part for them. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You just went cold. And that silence? It's louder than 1,000 arguments. It's colder than rejection, because now they're haunted by the warmth they can never get back. But let me scold you for a moment with love. How could you forget your worth like that? How did you let them convince you that you were only lovable when convenient? How did you believe that you had to work, to chase, to perform for love, when you are the love? You forgot, my friend, that you were the prize. You made yourself the pursuer when you should have been the destination. That ends today. You're not a vending machine for affection. You're not some background flame that people can warm their hands on while giving nothing in return. You are the damn fire, and if they don't protect it, they don't deserve it. Simple as that. And yes, it's hard, because walking away from someone you once loved feels like breaking your own ribs just to breathe. It's painful to go cold when your nature is warm. But here's what you must remember. Not everyone who touches your flame is meant to stay in your light. Some are only there to see if you'll burn yourself to keep them from shivering. And when they leave, let them freeze. Let them feel the chill they created. Let them sit in that cold room and realize they weren't too good for you. They were never even close. Because now your silence has become their winter, your absence is their mirror, and every time they reach for that old warmth, all they feel is ice. So say it loud. Say it in the comments. Say it for every time you loved without being seen, gave without being thanked, and stayed longer than you should have. I was the fire. They let it die. Type it like a declaration, like a burial, like the final match burned to the ground. And stay with me, because in the next chapter, we're going deeper. We're peeling back the mask they wear, the fake smiles, the forced stories, the filtered lives, and we'll expose what they're really doing when no one's watching. Because now, they're not just cold, they're cracking. Number 2. They can't admit they miss you, so they perform instead. Some people would rather fake a smile for the world than confess they destroyed the only person who truly cared for them. That's exactly what's happening now. You stopped reaching out. You went silent. And suddenly they became an actor, a performer, a daily highlight reel of fake laughter, filtered moments, and empty captions that scream, "Look how happy I am without you." But it's all a lie. A desperate, glitter-covered lie wrapped in pride and fear. Because if they told the truth, if they admitted what they actually feel inside, they'd crumble. And their ego can't handle that. So what do? They perform, they overpost, they accidentally view your stories, they pop up in your algorithm, they're suddenly hanging out with people they never cared for before. Why? Because they want you to see them and think they've moved on. They want you to feel like you were replaceable, like your presence didn't shake them, like your love was forgettable. But behind all those staged photos is a ghost. You in their mind, you in their memory, you in every silent moment when the camera is off, when the music stops, and all that's left is an empty bed and a guilty conscience. They want you to think they're thriving, but my friend, people don't perform when they're healed. They perform when they're haunted. They act when they've lost control. And your silence, your coldness, it didn't go unnoticed. It triggered a panic they'll never show. Because the one thing they weren't ready for, the one twist they never predicted, was you not needing them anymore. And here's the truth they choke on daily. They miss you. Deeply, desperately, but they'll never say it, because to admit that would mean admitting they were wrong, that they threw away something real, that they were loved properly and couldn't handle it, that they rejected loyalty, care and presence, and now all they have is noise. Temporary distractions, hollow bodies, surface-level conversations that can't even scratch the soul like you did just by existing. They feel the silence now, but they'll cover it with noise. They feel the guilt now, but they'll cover it with jokes. They feel the regret now, but they'll cover it with other people, and they'll keep dancing on their stage while you watch from your throne of peace. You're not reacting, you're not texting, you're not biting the bait. You've stopped giving them free access to your energy, and that is what breaks them. You were their home, their mirror, their warmth, but now you're gone, and every smile they fake is a wall built to keep that truth from leaking out. But walls crack, and behind those cracks is a truth they can't outrun forever. You were real, and they lost you. And maybe, just maybe, you needed to see it like this. Maybe you needed to stop hoping they'd come around and watch how they try to convince the world they're okay, even when their soul knows it's not. Because now you see what happens when you go cold. They don't get stronger, they get desperate, and their performance becomes their prison. So don't fall for the show. Don't let their posts fool you. Behind every highlight is a lowlight you'll never see. Behind every "I'm fine" is a shattered pride, trying to pretend they didn't ruin something sacred. And guess what? You don't need to do anything about it. Just keep being silent, keep being cold, keep walking in peace, because your indifference has become their obsession. And the longer you don't flinch, the deeper the cracks in their stage begin to show. Type it in the comments right now. They're acting happy. I'm actually free. Say it like a final line in a script you'll never perform again. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that your silence isn't weakness. It's power. And stay with me, because in the next chapter we expose how their pride is now shaking. The ego they used to ignore you. It's starting to crumble under the weight of your absence. And this is where their performance begins to break. Number 3. Your coldness cracks their ego first. The ego dies in silence. It just doesn't tell you it's screaming. That's what happens first when you go cold. Not their heart, not their memory, but their ego. That proud little monster inside them that believed you'd never walk away, that you'd always be available, that you'd always be waiting like a puppy at the door, desperate for scraps of affection. That ego built a fantasy version of you, someone soft, desperate, emotional, begging. But the moment you went quiet, that version shattered. And they don't know who you are anymore. See, folks, people don't panic when they lose what they don't value. They panic when they lose control. And they had control over you for a long time. Control over your reactions, your emotions, your tears. They knew exactly how to manipulate the flame. A breadcrumb here, a compliment there, a dry reply on Monday, followed by silence on Thursday, just to keep you addicted to their inconsistency. It was all strategy, all ego. They weren't loving you, they were managing you, like a pawn, like a tool, like something to pick up and put down when it suited them. But then, you changed the rules. You didn't beg. You didn't lash out. You didn't go loud. You went cold. You didn't send a long paragraph explaining your pain. You didn't explode to prove a point. You just vanished. Quietly. Cleanly. Like the storm they never saw coming. And that, my friend, is what cracked them. Not your anger. Your indifference. Now they're sitting there, scrolling through your silence like it's a mystery they can't decode. Why haven't they messaged me? Why didn't they react to my story? Who are they with now? Why does their energy feel so different? They don't care about your well-being. They care about losing their grip. Their image of you is dying. That sweet, chasing version of you is being replaced by someone confident, detached, focused. And that mirror? It's brutal, because now they realize you weren't weak, you were patient, you weren't clingy, you were loyal, you weren't too much. They were never enough. Let's break the lie they live in. Their ego told them they'll never leave. They need you too much. But reality slapped them when you gave them silence instead of softness, stillness instead of stories, cold, calculated peace instead of emotional chaos. They expected a breakdown, but they got your level up, and now they're spiraling. You've got to understand something powerful here. The ego doesn't survive mystery. It needs predictable reactions to stay inflated, and your coldness made you unpredictable. That's what drives them mad. You became a mystery, a storm without warning, a locked vault they no longer have the key to. And their ego, it's crumbling under the pressure of not being able to read you anymore. So, my friend, if you're feeling guilty for pulling away, don't. What you're doing isn't cruel. It's clarity, it's healing, it's justice in disguise. Because if they had valued you while you were soft, you wouldn't have gone cold. But they didn't. They treated your love like it was something they could play with. And now the game is over. The board flipped, the ego cracked, and all that's left is you, untouchable, unreadable, and rising. Say it in the comments like it's your final vow to your old self. My cold silence cracked their pride. Let them watch from afar. Let them wonder what version of you they're even looking at now, because the version they built in their head, that one is long gone. What's coming next isn't revenge, it's revelation. Stay with me, because in the next chapter we uncover how your silence turns into their obsession and why they're watching every move while pretending they've moved on. Number 4. They obsess over your indifference. It's not what you say that haunts them, it's what you don't. You stopped texting, you stopped caring, you didn't announce it, you didn't slam the door, you just went cold. And that, right there, is what's driving them out of their mind. See, people can argue with noise, they can justify drama, they can spin words into stories that soothe their ego. But silence is different. Silence is a mirror. And when someone with a guilty conscience stares into it, they see everything they tried to avoid. every lie they told, every time they made you feel like garbage, every breadcrumb they tossed while pretending to be a feast. And now they obsess over your indifference, over your quiet, over your energy, because it's no longer available. The same person they once had unlimited access to now feels unreachable. You stopped updating them, you stopped checking in, you stopped reacting, and that silence, it echoes. Louder than any argument, more deafening than any scream. You're not ignoring them, you're just not entertaining the circus anymore. And for someone who fed off your emotions, your absence is a starvation they don't know how to survive. Let's be clear, they don't miss you because they love you. They miss you because they can't control you. You were the source of their validation, their ego boost, their emotional sponge. You were always there, whether they deserved you or not. But now, you're not reacting to the stories. You're not falling for the games. You're not chasing their shadow anymore. And that's when the obsession begins. They start checking your page, watching your stories, scrolling through your old pictures just to feel something. They'll never admit it, but you've become their ritual, their daily obsession. They wake up wondering what you're doing, who you're with, how you got so calm without them. Your silence is no longer just a gap in conversation, it's a threat to their self-image. Because if you're okay without them, maybe they were never that important to begin with. And that thought, that's the one that breaks them. But don't get it twisted, they won't show it. They'll pretend they're living, they'll post more, party more, fake laugh harder, but behind every post is a question they can't stop asking. Why aren't you watching? Why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you breaking? Because you're done. That's why. You're not trying to prove a point anymore. You became the point. You turned your indifference into power, your disinterest into peace. You stopped trying to fix what wasn't broken in you, but broken in them. And now they sit with that, with the weight of a silence they earned. Let me talk to you, my friend. For a long time, you thought love meant effort, that if you just gave more, explained more, fought harder, they'd finally see your worth. But that's the trap. Some people don't want healing. They want attention. Some don't want love. They want control. And the moment you went cold, you broke the spell. You showed them what it feels like to lose you, not in anger, not in drama, but in detachment. So if you ever wonder if they still think about you, understand this: they think about you more now than they ever did when they had you, because now you're not a person. You're a mystery, an unanswered question, a cold silence wrapped in strength, and every day they check and find nothing. That nothing becomes everything to them. Type it in the comments right now. My silence became their obsession. Say it like a truth bomb, like a crown, like the final nail in the ego they used to control you. And stay close, because in the next section we go even deeper into how every new person they run to can't fill the space you left behind. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. Number 5. Every new person feels like a poor replacement. You don't realize what made someone special until everyone else feels fake. That's the hell they're living in now. They tried to replace you. Let's not sugarcoat it. After you went cold, they didn't heal. They distracted. They didn't reflect. They ran straight into the arms of someone new, someone easier, someone shiny on the outside but hollow inside. And they thought it would work. They thought if they could just find someone else to fill the void, they could erase you, rewrite history, move on without guilt. But here's what they didn't realize. You weren't just a person. You were a presence. You had depth. Your energy had weight. Your silence spoke volumes. Your love had layers. And now, as they sit across from someone who looks good on paper but feels like cardboard in real life, they ache. Not for the fantasy, for the realness they lost. Because the new person, They don't get them. They don't read the silence between their words. They don't hear the pain behind their fake laughter. They don't feel the shift in their energy. They just smile, nod, take selfies, and leave them feeling more alone than they ever felt with you. They thought replacing you would be easy, that your energy was generic, that your love was disposable. But now, every new conversation feels like a copy of a copy. Every kiss lacks soul. Every touch feels scripted. Because you weren't just physical, you were spiritual, emotional, present. And they didn't just lose a partner, they lost their safe space. And now, even surrounded by new faces, they feel empty. Even in crowded rooms, they feel alone. It's the little things that haunt them now. The way you used to say their name, the way you listened without judgment, the calm you brought when their world was on fire, the way your energy didn't beg to be seen, it commanded it. And now, they're with people who talk too much, feel too little, and leave them cold. Every new person is a poor replacement, because no one can fake the soul you brought into the room. Let's call it what it is. They downgraded. Not because the new person is bad, but because they can't replace a bond that was never superficial to begin with. They tried to fill a spiritual void with physical distractions. They tried to cover up real love with quick fixes. But the soul doesn't lie, and now it's screaming at them. And here's the cold truth. They might post about how great their new connection is. They might smile wide for the camera. But behind those eyes, there's a ghost, you, a comparison they'll never admit they're making. And every time they try to feel something with someone new, they end up running straight into the wall of what they lost. So stop wondering if they've replaced you. They haven't. They can't. Because real can't be replaced with plastic. Soul can't be swapped for surface. And peace? That's something you were. Not something they'll find again in rushed conversations and shallow validation. Say it in the comments right now. They tried to replace me, but I'm not repeatable. Let that be your reminder, not because you're bitter, not because you're petty, but because the truth needs to breathe. And stay with me, because in the next part, we step inside the maze they built, trying to escape your memory, only to realize you are the exit they'll never find. Number 6. Their guilt turns into quiet panic. You never forget the person you ignored when they were the only one who actually cared. That's where they are now, stuck in the guilt, drowning in memories they used to shrug off like you were nothing but background noise. Now, every moment they brushed you off hits differently. Every unanswered message feels like a slap they gave to themselves. Every dry reply, every "I'm busy," every time they saw your name pop up and rolled their eyes like you were annoying, now that moment lives in their head, rent-free. But here's the thing, they'll never show it. Not publicly, not to you. Because guilt is quiet. It doesn't post Instagram stories. It doesn't beg out loud. It just eats, slowly, silently. It gnaws at them when they're alone, when the phone doesn't ring, when the person they chose instead of you doesn't feel quite right, when the rush fades and all that's left is a mirror and a memory of the one person who truly gave a damn. They thought you'd always be there. They got so used to you reaching out first, always explaining, always fixing things, always giving second chances like you were a doormat instead of a divine presence. But now, you've gone cold, and it's their turn to feel that icy wall you once cried against. Let's break it down. Guilt doesn't hit all at once. It trickles in. First, it's a passing thought, then a dream, then a full-on replay of the moment they hurt you, over and over like a broken record. They won't admit it. But every new message they don't get from you, every memory that pops up on their phone, it's another dagger, another silent scream they swallow in pride. And it gets worse when they realize you never did anything wrong. That's what haunts them most. You were loyal, you were patient, you were there, you gave when they took, you tried when they tested. And now, that contrast, their indifference versus your devotion, is the thing they can't unsee or unfeel. But don't expect them to say it. Their pride won't allow it. They'll act like they're fine, like they've moved on, like they're glowing and growing. But you know better. You feel better. Because you're no longer begging, you're building. No longer chasing, you're choosing. And that shift, that silence, that energy they used to treat like garbage, it's now the only thing they crave but can't get back. Let me remind you of this. It wasn't your love that was weak. It was their character. And now, while you move forward, they sit behind the curtains of their own regret show, clapping for a life they secretly hate. Type it in the comments right now. Their guilt is not my responsibility. Say it like you mean it. Say it like the closure they'll never give you because you became your own closure. And stay close, because in the next chapter we flip the table. You're not watching anymore. They are. And every move you make without them destroys the lie they tried to live in. Number 7. They realize you were the one who actually cared. The cruelest truth is realizing the person who cared the most is the one you pushed away first. And now, my friend, that truth is landing in their chest like a fist they can't dodge. You were the one who stayed when they acted distant. You were the one who listened when they shut down. You were the one who cared. Not just when it was easy, but especially when it was hard. You didn't fake love. You didn't post it for clout. You lived it. You showed up, consistently, silently, without needing a spotlight. And that's what makes it hit even harder now, because they know they'll never find that again. At first, they didn't even notice it. They mistook your loyalty for weakness, your patience for desperation, your consistency for something they could just pick up and put down whenever they felt like it. They took your presence for granted, like air. But here's the thing about air. You don't appreciate it until you're choking without it. And now they're choking silently, watching you go cold, watching you detach, watching you become someone they don't recognize anymore. You're no longer the one reaching out, offering your heart on a silver plate. You're not the one trying to make things make sense. You're not trying to convince them you were real anymore, because the truth, they now know it. They know you were real. They just weren't ready for real. They wanted chaos. They wanted games. They wanted control. They wanted to feed their ego, not their soul. And now, in the silence, they remember every time they dismissed your care like it was a burden. Every time they looked at your love and saw it as too much. Every time they rolled their eyes at your effort. And that's the memory they can't shake. That's the one that keeps them up at night, scrolling, replaying, aching. Because here's what stings the most. Even if they wanted to fix it now, they can't. Not because you're angry, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you've changed. You don't see them the same. You don't feel the pull. The spell is broken. And the version of you that once would have done anything to keep them, that version no longer exists. And they know that. Deep in their gut, they know, they can feel it, that even if they texted, even if they called, even if they apologized with tears in their eyes, it's too late. Because love has an expiration date when it's mistreated. And they ran the clock out. You're not waiting anymore. So let that truth burn into your chest and remind you who you really were in that connection. The real one, the loyal one, the consistent one, the one who actually cared. And now you're the one who walked away with your dignity, your peace, and your silence intact. Type it in the comments right now. I was real. They weren't ready. Say it like a badge. Say it like the final word to a chapter you'll never reopen. And stay close, because in the final chapter, we bring the last blow. The moment they realize not only did they lose you, they'll never be able to get you back. Number 8. You're cold now because you finally love yourself. Going cold wasn't punishment, it was protection. You didn't become cold because you wanted to hurt them. You became cold because you were done hurting yourself, done pouring your warmth into someone who treated it like garbage, done begging to be seen while they looked past you, done being the doormat, the safety net, the backup plan. My friend, you didn't become cruel, you became clear. And now they can't reach you, not because you're hiding, but because you're healing. You see, when you loved them, you sacrificed yourself in pieces. You gave them your time, your energy, your loyalty, even on days when they barely gave you crumbs. You wrote paragraphs, they replied with silence. You stayed up thinking of ways to fix things. They stayed busy pretending nothing was broken. And now that you've gone quiet, they finally feel the weight of everything they ignored. But what they don't understand is this. Your coldness is not emotional revenge, it's emotional rebirth. You stopped chasing, you stopped explaining, you stopped apologizing for feeling too deeply, and in that stillness, something awoke, something powerful, something called self-worth. Now they're confused, shocked, lost, because the version of you they remember, the one who was always available, always forgiving, always holding on, is gone, and what stands in your place is someone they no longer recognize, someone they can't manipulate, someone they can't pull back into orbit. You're not just distant, you're different, and that scares them more than anything else. They wanted the old you, the one who would have folded at the first sign of attention. But now, you're folding nothing. You're not reacting. You're reflecting. You're not explaining. You're evolving. You're not loving them. You're loving yourself. And that shift, that glow-up, that silence, it's unreachable to someone who once made you feel unworthy of it. Let's be honest. This isn't easy. Going cold isn't just snapping your fingers and forgetting them. It's crying in silence. It's resisting the urge to break your own healing for their comfort. It's choosing yourself every day, even when it hurts. But that's how power is reclaimed. That's how self-love is rebuilt. They used to say you were too much, but now they feel the absence of too much, and they'd give anything just to taste that warmth again. But you're not here to serve old versions of yourself to people who mistreated the first one. So here's your final truth bomb. You went cold because you finally loved the one person who kept getting left behind, you. And no, they can't reach this version of you, not because you're cruel, but because they no longer have the access they once took for granted. Say it loud in the comments. I chose me. That's why I'm free. Drop it like a hammer, like a boundary, like a celebration. And if you're rising through this silence, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who's about to wake up to their own power. You went cold, but only because you got hot enough to burn the lies down. And now you see it. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. You didn't turn cold out of spite. You turned cold because you finally turned inward. And while they struggle to replace you, explain you, or reach you, you've already moved into a version of yourself they'll never access again. That's real growth. That's real power. If this hit your soul, smash that like button, subscribe for more Stoic truth, and share this with someone who needs a reminder of their worth. Drop your final affirmation in the comments. I chose me. I never looked back. Say it, mean it, live it.